Looking out, I think many of us here remember the Challenger accident. Some of us were not even born yet. But it was a time when NASA had this new, exciting spaceship. It was going to make travel to space routine. We had done Apollo, we had landed on the moon, but it was time to go live and work in space. We were going to bring science experiments or even space station, which I did during my time at NASA. They were even going to bring a few congressmen. The era of easy access to space was here. We could finally learn to live and work in space. NASA had promised Congress that we would launch 40 space shuttle missions a year. But there was a problem. The space shuttle had two big solid rocket motors. If you look at a shuttle on the launch pad, the two big white rockets on the side are the solid rocket boosters. And they had been having problems leaking gas. In fact, for several missions, NASA had video of gas rocket exhaust basically leaking out to the side, but it went off to the side. It wasn't pointed at the shuttle itself, so it wasn't a problem. And for years, NASA engineers, especially at Morton Thiokol, the company that built it, had warned, hey, this is not normal, this is a problem, but nothing bad ever happened. And NASA managers were under pretty tremendous pressure. They had to win, or they had to launch, and so they ignored the problem. They kicked the can down the proverbial road. To fix that problem, it would have hurt the careers of the managers. They got promoted if they launched. They got promoted if they made Congress happy. They would not have been promoted had they shut the program down to fix the problem. So launching kept on happening over and over until January 28, 1986. It was a beautiful morning, sunny morning like today. It was really cold in Florida. It was in the 20s. It was a beautiful launch. The whole world was watching. There was a lady named Krista McCullough. She was a teacher, the first teacher on a space shuttle. I was watching at the time. I'm sure many of us was. It was an amazing launch until 71 seconds, and that's when Challenger exploded. That's when we were all horrified with that terrible event. I was a freshman at the Air Force Academy. I was in biology class that morning, and the teacher let us turn on one of those old TVs on the movable cart, and we were watching it. One of my fellow cadets, his father, Dick Scobie, was the commander. His whole squadron had gone down to watch. And in the following months, NASA did an investigation, and they confirmed what so many engineers have been saying all along, that the solid rocket motor had a fundamental problem. There was something wrong going on. But the terrible thing was that for 24 missions before Challenger, they knew about this problem, people were saying things, and they didn't stop it. There was a lady named Diane Vaughan. She's a sociologist. She wrote a book. She coined a term called the normalization of deviance. And that's what NASA had been doing. They had been seeing this problem that shouldn't have been happening, and it didn't kill anybody, so it must have been normal. They had been normalizing deviance. So fast forward 17 years later, there was a mission called STS-107, the Space Shuttle Columbia. I was a new astronaut. I was a rookie at the time. I was assigned as what's called a family escort, so I was there with all the families when they launched into space. I took them into mission control during the mission, and we were there at the Kennedy Space Center on the runway on February 1st, another beautiful, cool Florida winter morning when Columbia was coming back. And during that time, there was something called foam strikes. So that big orange tank on the space shuttle was covered in foam, and foam had been falling off since the very first mission and hitting the bottom of the space shuttle. And it had never killed anybody. It almost did several times, but that foam hitting the shuttle had never killed anybody. And on STS-107 on this mission, just like every other mission, foam fell off, but it didn't hit the bottom of the shuttle. It hit the leading edge of the wing. So it was it was worse than the problems that they had been seeing in the past. And they launched fine. They spent 2 weeks in space, but when they came back to Earth, that hole in the wing that the foam had caused allowed the hot plasma gas. When you hit the air going 17,000 miles an hour, it turns into plasma. That plasma came in the wing, burned the wing off, and killed the crew, killed 7 of my friends. It was terrible. But this had been a problem that had been occurring for years, and NASA had been ignoring it. They had normalized the deviance of the foam strike. Folks, this is exactly what's happening in our country today. There are dangerous things happening, deviant things, not normal things. And we're allowing them to become acceptable. It's not normal for the president and his family and Steve Witkoff to make billions, not millions, billions of dollars from Saudi and UAE and Qatar, and then give them special treatment on tariffs, or allow them to build an Air Force base and give them NATO-like security protection, or to go to war against their arch enemy, Iran, at their behest. That's not normal. It's not normal for his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to make billions of dollars from Saudi and UAE. It's not normal for the president to declare war on our press and our media and have them fall in line. And now CBS, the Evening News, is saying these wonderful, glowing things about the dear leader. That's not normal. It's not normal for the president to threaten law firms. Without functioning lawyers and law firms, we don't have a legal system. Firms like Paul Weiss and so many others just caved before his threats. That extortion of the legal system is probably one of the most dangerous threats to our democracy in our history. It's not normal to ignore the Constitution. The Constitution was written by some pretty smart guys 250 years ago. They knew that Congress should have the power to declare war, or more importantly, not to declare war. That Congress should have tariffs, that we should have this thing called warrants. Before the police can come into your home, they need a warrant. All of these things that I swore for 30 years in the Air Force to support and defend are now just being ignored on a normal basis. What we're seeing today, it seems like every day something happens that should require the 25th Amendment in normal times would have, and today it's just becoming normalized. It's not normal to go to war without a plan, or without objectives, or without allies, and to do everything that we're seeing every day during this war that we're having with Iran right now. It's not normal to have National Guard troops in American cities, and even worse, to have our secret police, ICE, terrorizing brown folks here in our own communities, killing American citizens and then lying about it. We all saw with our own eyes, and they have the gall to lie about it and pretend like we didn't see what we had seen. To take billions of dollars from billionaires in corrupt contributions and then give them the tax cuts of their dreams, or to take hundreds of millions from Elon and then give him the keys to the United States government. The man runs an AI company. There's nothing more valuable than data. He just got all the data, all of our data of the U.S. government. These things are not normal. They're the things that kings would do. And we say no kings. I could go on and on and on. These are unprecedented times, but I want to make the connection that we saw this at NASA. It killed 2 space shuttle crews. And on a much bigger scale, we're seeing this happen in our country. This is why we're all here today. But I'm going to say this very precisely and very carefully. We are flirting with losing our democracy. I'm allergic to hyperbole. I'm not an excitable guy. I'm like calm. I'm probably not the guy you want as a politician because I'm not exciting. I'm going to say this very deliberately. We are flirting with losing our democracy. We need to stop being dictator curious. I want to tell you another story. In the summer of 2012, I had just shown up in Moscow. I was there to train for my next space station mission. And it was a weekend, and I was bored, so I was walking around Moscow by myself, and there was a big mob. I probably should have turned around and went the other way, but I'm like, I wonder what that is. So I walked up to this mob to see what it was. It was Alexei Navalny, actually. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I learned pretty quickly. In Russia, after the Soviet Union collapsed, Vladimir Putin won an election in 2000, a mostly free and fair election. He won another election in 2004, and then in 2008, he was term limited by their constitution. So he did a swap with basically their vice president, Dmitry Medvedev. Putin became number 2, Medvedev became number 1, and then in 2012, Putin wanted to come back. And some number of Russians were mad about that. They could tell that something bad has happened, so they were out protesting. They had the Russian police dressed up like Navy SEALs wearing masks. It's exactly what we see here on the streets of America now. When I see these guys, I see Russian secret police. That's what I see. But this was going on in Russia. I think most Russians did not expect to lose their democracy. Most Russians did not expect to lose the freedoms that they had. They basically had freedom of speech back in 2012. Most Russians didn't imagine that their leader, who wanted to make Russia great again, would start a calamitous war that's so far cost over 1 million Russian casualties and destroyed their their economy. Most Russians didn't expect all of these things to happen, but I think it's important to keep these things in perspective. Not all dictators just seize power. Many of them are elected, at least initially. Vladimir Putin was elected. Lukashenko in Belarus was elected after the fall of the Soviet Union. Viktor Orban in Hungary was elected. The Nazis won the 1932 elections as a party. Donald Trump was elected. Guys, this doesn't always start with big warning symbols. It's not like on the space station when there's a fire and the warning lights are going off. On the space shuttle, there's a warning to tell you, hey, something bad's about to happen. That's not how you lose your democracy. You have a democracy until you don't. And the Russians have learned that the hard way. But you know what's really terrible about that? In the year 2026, once you lose your democracy, you're not getting it back. The state today, our government in America, all these governments around the world have powers that George Orwell could not have imagined. Their ability to survey us, cameras everywhere, checking, algorithms and social media, combine all of that surveillance state with AI. Once you lose a democracy, you can't get it back. If you're a Chinese person who understands what's going on, you're not going to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. The best way to do this is to not lose your democracy to begin with. The best way to not have a dictatorship is to not lose your democracy to begin with. And guys, we have been given the biggest blessing. I mean, what we have in America, if you're born in America, you have won the human lottery. We have been given a lot, and we need to stop flirting with Trump and this dictator because it's not going to last forever. It's up to us to make sure that that doesn't happen. He's actively trying to steal the 2026 elections. Think about that. He's actively trying to steal the 2026 midterms. He's attacking our press. He's waging out-of-control wars of choice. It's not even a war of choice in Iran and Venezuela. It's a war of whim. It's like whatever he wakes up thinking, he'll go start a war. He's profoundly damaged our alliances. Guys, our European friends don't trust us. Japan and Korea do not trust us. All the places I served in flying F-16s to help defend, they have two eyes. They can see what's happening here. They don't trust us. The damage being done is profound. And we have to take this back in November. So if there's anything you remember from my speech today, remember this. We have to stop normalizing deviance. So what can we do? What can normal Texans do? We just heard a little bit about what we're doing right now is super important. Protest. Congressmen and senators see what's happening. The protests that they did in Minnesota is what stopped ICE from terrorizing their communities. What Nancy's doing and what the GA Young, the yellow vest, all the volunteers works. For now, at least for now in America, the power is still in the hands of the people. Call your congressman, post about it, don't be silent. Most importantly, and this is near and dear to my heart, find a politician that you trust. I don't know where Alex Maldonado went. He was just here. Leticia, wait, raise your hand, Alex. Leticia Gutierrez, where are you? Leticia, raise your hand. Where's Leticia? Is she not here? She left. She's running for Congress in District 9. Find a politician that you trust. Find a politician that you know. Go volunteer for them. One of my volunteers is right here today. I can tell you, having run for office, volunteers are gold. Donate to them. The money is gold. The Republicans are outraising us roughly in these races 10-1. You're not going to win a race with money, but you also can't run a race without some minimum amount of money. Find a politician you trust. Make phone calls, knock on doors. That is how we win these races. And most importantly, vote in November. Because listen to this, and I mean this. I'm not saying these... I'm being precise with my words. If we don't start winning elections, we're not going to have elections. If we don't start winning elections, we're not going to have elections. So there's a lot of doom and gloom, but there is a lot of hope. Just seeing this crowd today, I have a huge amount of hope. But I want to leave you with this thought. Are there any Lord of the Rings fans? All right. This is one of my favorite quotes. Frodo is complaining to Gandalf. He doesn't want to go on this mission. He's got to go on a quest to save the ring, and he's whining about it. He doesn't want to do it. Gandalf is the old wise man, and Frodo is like the hero of Lord of the Rings. So Frodo says, I wish it need not have happened in my time. To which Gandalf replies, so do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time given us. So that's my question for you. What will you do with the time given us? We're all here in 2026. I wish it was some other time, but it's not. It's 2026. So what are you going to do with that? When your grandkids grow up and ask you, what did you do during the Trump years? How are you going to answer them? I'm going to have a really strong answer for me. But what will you do for the time given us? So thank you all for coming today. You're amazing. Thank you, Nancy. And let's make sure this country never has a king. Thank you.